Yes, sir.
Yes,
And my screen is also visible, right?
Yes, sir.
yes,
Okay. So yesterday session we have discussed what is in-process hosting, what is out-of-process hosting, how in-process hosting is work along with our IIA server, how out-of-process hosting is work along with our IIA server. As well as we have discussed what is Kestrel server and when Kestrel server is used as the internet facing and when Kestrel server is used as a internal web server, right, along with our IIS. So, and we have discussed that there is a file called the launch settings, and in that file, right, we are defining many things. What is the port number? What is the profile for IIS? What is the profile for Kestrel server? Right, all these things we have discussed. So in today's session, we are going to discuss what is launch settings.json file. Then we will discuss how we can read configuration related things, right, from different files. Then we will discuss what are the middle layer components in ASP.NET Core web application. Let us first create a new ASP.NET MVC, not MVC, new ASP.NET empty project, right? So what is MVC, what is Web API? We will use those template in our coming session. But for now, we are discussing the basic concept. So we need to explain, we need to understand each and everything from the scratch. So we need to start with the empty project, right? So if you go to here, you can select languages. I want to develop application using C Sharp. I want to develop the application using Windows platform and I want to develop a web application. So you can go and filter the things. So once you filter, then you will see these are the project template which you can use to develop web applications, right, in ASP.NET Core. So there is a template called ASP.NET Core empty. Select this template, click on the next button, provide the project name, whatever name you want, but you should give a meaningful name to your project, right? Then select the location where you want to create the project. Solution name, you can keep the project name as it is, right? Even though if you want, you can give a different name to your solution, right? Then click on the next button. In the next button, this additional information window will come. And here it will select you the template, what you are exactly using, that you can see it is highlighted ASP.NET Core empty. Whatever .NET version you want to use, that what you need to use. I'm using .NET 6.0. Configure for HTTPS, right? So basically, what exactly this checkbox meaning? It meaning if you want to access the application using HTTPS protocol or not. By default, HTTP is there. Do you want to access also using HTTPS? Yes, I want to access using HTTPS. Then you need to check this checkbox. Do not use the top level statement. Currently, I'm not discussing anything about Docker. Once we discuss Docker, at that time I will explain. For now, I'm just on checking this Docker checkbox. Do not use top level statement means what? Now, I don't want to use the top level statement. What it means? It means I want to create the program class main method. Within the main method only, I'm going to write the code, right? If you do not want, if you don't want that main method, don't want that class, right? Right? Directly you want to write the main method code, then you need to uncheck this checkbox. But I want to create, I don't want to create a top level statement, so I'm checking this checkbox. Once you check this checkbox, then click on the OK button. Sorry, this create button. So once you click on the create button, then it will create the project with the empty template, right? So here you can see the program.cs class file. We have discussed this four piece of code yesterday, that it is going to create the web host, right? It is going to create the web application instance. And using this web application instance, right, you can register the services. And using this builder instance, right, that is web application builder, what you can do, you can register the using this builder instance, you can register the services. And using this web application instance, you can configure the middle layer component. So what are middle layer component? We will discuss. And what exactly this create builder method does, it internally set the web host, internally host the application either by using in-process hosting or out-of-process hosting, whether using Kestrel server, whether using IIS server, or whether using what? Both of them, right? And this is the one of the endpoint which is going to handle the incoming request, right? And in this case, whenever the browser whenever the URL means the root URL, or when the URL ends with the semicolon means nothing is there, only the base address. Then at that point, this delegate is going to be executed, and whatever it is showing here, that will be returned to the output stream, right? And then this app.run method means it is another middle layer component, and this component is basically start the web application. So here it is creating the web application, right? Here it is configuring the services, and here it is configuring the middle layer components, and here it is starting the application. And we have discussed while using the create builder method, it make use of two things. One is what is the default uh, what is the default hosting model. By default it is in process, and along with we have discussed there is a file called launchSettings.json file. So inside this launchSettings.json file you can see one profile is for uh, fast core web application. This is nothing but your Kestrel server profile, and this is for IIS Express profile, right? So now let us first discuss this launch settings.json file in detail. What are all these things? Let us try to understand. Clear, guys? Clear? As of
Clear,
now, we
sir.
have
Clear,
discussed
sir.
this thing, right? We need to understand this launch settings.json file in detail. So the point that guys you need to remember is that this launch settings.json file only used, right, when in your only come into the picture in the development machine, right? If you move to the production server, then this profile is never going to be used. The settings that are present within the launch settings.json file are going to be used when we run our when we run or launch the ASP.NET Core application, either from Visual Studio or by using .NET Core CLI, right? Either from Visual Studio means if you use this IIS Express or a Fast Core Web application profile or run the application, or if you are running the application using .NET Core CLI, then only this launch settings.json file will come into the picture, right? But if you run this application into the development server, right? So, for example, if you build, publish the file and host into the production server, in production server, this file will not come into the picture. This is only for the development machine where you are developing. At that time, only this launch profile file will come into the picture, right? It is not come into the picture when you publish your application to the production server. This is the most important point that you need to keep in mind. Launch setting.json file is only used within the local development machine. That means this file is not required when we publish our ASP.NET Core application to the production server, right? So what is the use of this setting, right? See, if you have certain settings and you want your application to use such settings when you publish you or deploy your application into the production, then you need to store such settings in the app settings.json file, right? Currently you can see this is launch settings.json file, but we have also another file app settings.json file. What is this app settings.json file? That we will discuss once we discuss this launch settings.json file. So basically, what I mean to tell you is, right? Suppose some configuration you want to use in the production, right? So then you should define or you should mention those configuration within the app settings.json file, not in the launch settings.json file. You can put those things inside the launch settings.json file. Even you can also put the same setting in the app settings.json file. Then what is the execution order? Which will take the priority? We will discuss. But the thing that you need to remember, anything which you want in the production server, right? You should not put them inside the launch setting.json file. Why we should not put? Because this launch settings.json file is not available in the production server. It is only available within your development server. Then, sir, how we can put some configuration which we can access in the production server? For that purpose, we are having this app settings.json file, right? Clear, guys?
Sir, I just have one question. When you say it works on the development machine, in the colloquial term, it means working on the local system, right?
A development machine means where you are developing the application. It is only don't think that the development means the QA or UAT. So don't think that
No,
development
no.
machine means where you are developing the application means using the Visual Studio only or using the .NET Core CLI.
Okay,
For
so when
example,
I say, yeah,
for example,
application.
currently I can run the application in how many ways? I can use this fast core web application profile, which is nothing but your custom server, right? I can also use the IIS profile. So this is nothing but we are running the application using the Visual Studio only, right? So if you are running the application using Visual Studio, or if you are running the application using command prompt using the .NET Core CLI command .NET Run, then only this profile setting will come into the picture.
Okay, got it. Understood.
But if you host this application into the production in the sense, don't think that production means production server. It can be anything. The QA environment, the UAT environment, right? These are also like the production only. So there it is not going to work. It is only going to work in the development machine. Means where you are developing the application and where you are running the application using Visual Studio and the .NET Core CLI. Clear?
Yes.
Clear, guys? Right. So if you look at this command file, if you look at this launch settings.json file, there is a section called profiles. So what exactly this profile section? It contains two profiles. Two profiles means if you come to this launch settings section, right? Drop down list. You will see one profile is for fast core web application, another profile is for IIS Express. This IIS Express is nothing but your IIS Express server, and this fast core web application profile is nothing but it is your Custral web server, right? So basically, this is nothing but your Custral web server, and this is nothing but your IIS Express web server. And that is what I am mentioning here. These settings, whatever you are seeing here, is for a Custral web server, and these settings is for your IIS web server. Let us understand what are all the commands. So let us try to understand what is command name argument, what is .NET run message, what is launch browser, what is application URL, what is this environment variable, what is this SL port, right? What is Windows authentication, what is anonymous authentication? Let us try to understand. So this command name property,
I
right?
have
This
one
command,
question, sir.
yes.
That is when I create this first core web applications, when I check the dependencies, there is a NuGet packages. So once you open the NuGet packages, the analyzers, it's not working. What kind of NuGet packages I have to add?
Analyzer means any dependency, right? For the .NET Core related packages, those are going to be installed here, right? Any additional external package that you are going to install into your application, one separate packages is going to be created, and inside that packages folder only those DLLs or references going to be added. So this analyzer and this framework, they are only for the .NET Core related things they are going to install. You can see .NET Core, .NET Core. So .NET Core, and here you can see .NET SDK, right? Microsoft ASP.NET Core, .NET Core. So these are framework related things and ASP.NET Core related things. They are installed here, right? By default, right? Any additional package you want, you can install, and those are going to be added in a separate folder. For example, now if you go to the tools, NuGet package manager, right? Suppose I want to install a separate package, Newtons of JSON. Then immediately I install one folder will be created inside this dependencies, right? Inside this dependencies and that package, this additional or external package, what we are installing, those are going to be installed inside that external package. See, one package folder is added, and inside this packages, the new terms of JSON is going
Yeah,
to be added.
packages are working, but the analyzer for me is showing like it's like
Just a restore, just a
dot.
restore, just a restore. So there is a restore
Okay.
option, it's not coming. But if it is showing that, that means you have not installed the framework correctly. But it should not be like this. Okay, if you are having any specific issue into your dependencies, right? As you mentioned, we are having extra or some doubt clearing classes on weekends, right? You can ping me what is your issue with the dependencies and installment, then we will fix that. Clear?
Okay.
We should not waste time in this actual training session. That is something different that you can contact me and we will have allocate some time on weekend and we will see that. Clear? So basically, guys, you can see there are two sections. Let us try to understand. So first of all, you need to understand this is fast core web application. This is nothing but this settings is for Kestrel server, and this settings is for IIS Express server. So inside this, there is a command called a command name. So there is a property called command name. So basically, if you read this is nothing but a JSON object, right? JSON object means it is going to store the data in the form of a key value pair, and this is the key name and this is its corresponding value. So what is this command name, right? The value of the command name property of the launch setting file can be any of the following. It can be IIS Express, it can be IIS, and it can be project. So currently you can say it is project and it is IIS Express, but we have not used IIS because currently this IIS, it is the lightweight version, it is similar to IIS only. So don't confuse. So IIS Express and IIS both are going to be same. The command name property value along with the ASP.NET Core hosting model value from the application project file will determine the internal and external web server that are going to host your application, as well as that are going to handle the incoming HTTP request. That means what? It means what the command name you set and what ASP.NET Core hosting model you set for your application. Both will determine whether we need to use a single server, whether we need to use whether we need to use both the server or which server is going to be used. For example, if the command name is project and if the hosting model is in process, right, then what will happen? If the command name is in process and if the hosting name is IIS Express and hosting model is in process, then what will happen? If the command name is project and if the hosting model is out of process, then what will happen? If the command name is IIS Express and if the hosting model is out of process, then what will happen? So both will determine the internal and external web server that are going to be used to host your application and uh, handle the incoming HTTP request. For example, we have already discussed it, but let us try to understand one more time. If the command name is project, right, then it will ignore the ASP.NET hosting core model. It doesn't matter. If you are using the project command name, then it doesn't matter what hosting model you use. In that case, Kestrel is the only server that is going to run your application. So for example, if I use first core web application, that means it will use this command name project. And once it use the project command name, it doesn't matter whether you host the application, it doesn't matter whether you use in-process hosting or out-of-process hosting. In this case, Kestrel is the only server who is going to handle the request. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Right. Second, IIS Express. See, now I'm not going to use project. I'm going to use IIS Express. So if I'm using IIS Express and if the hosting model is in process, then in that case, who is the server and how many server are going to handle the request, guys? See, IIS Express and the hosting model is in process. Then in that case, how many server will handle the request? Is there any
One,
internal and external server? Only one server?
only
One
one.
server.
Only one server. And who is that server? That server is IIS Express.
IIS Express.
Right? That is what I mentioned. If your command name is IIS Express, hosting model is in process, then only one server will use, that is IIS Express. Now let's come to in process. It doesn't matter. Project, if you are using the project command name project, doesn't matter what is the hosting model. It might be in process, out process, but only one server is going to handle the request. It is now if you are using IIS Express and if the hosting model is out of a process, then in that case, how many server will come into the picture?
Two server.
Two server. Which one is the internal and which one is the external?
Kestrel is the
Kestrel.
internal
External
and
is External is IIS Express.
IIS.
Why? Because using that external server only, we can provide some additional configuration. A security layer we can implement. And then the internal server is going to be Kestrel, who is going to execute your application code. Clear, guys?
In the real time, how many servers we can
In the
execute?
exactly in the real time, I'm talking again and again. This profile will not use in the real time where you are hosting the application. That server will come into the picture. If you are hosting the application in IIS, then it is going to be the IIS only who is going to execute your application. If you are hosting your application in Linux, sorry, in Apache Tomcat or Nginx, then in that case, Apache Nginx, they are going to be behave like your external web server, and Custom is going to be the internal web server.
And command name for them would be?
This thing will not come into the picture now in production. Whatever say I'm saying again and again, I'm saying this settings is only for the development machine, not for the production.
What if we use a virtual machine like Docker? Would that come into picture? Because sometimes
Even
we...
though it's a for Docker, there is a separate section now. I have not discussed yet Docker,
Okay.
right? So I will talk to what is Docker, how to host Docker. That is completely a different story altogether, right?
Okay.
So
I was
currently,
just saying because my project works on Docker. So
right?
probably, yeah, so we don't run
I
it
will show
locally.
you how
Sometimes
to
run it
install
on...
Docker and all those things that we will discuss later, right?
Okay.
Okay. So guys, clear how the web server are going to be used, and whatever we discussed with the IIS Express, it is same as IIS, right? So once you understand what is the importance of a command name, right? Then you can see there is a, I will come to this .NET run messages, right? What is exactly this .NET run messages? So actually guys, to be frank, there is no proper documentation officially available for this particular key, right? So the whole purpose of this setting is intended, right, yet not officially document. But what I got from Stack Overflow that it will give you some immediate feedback upon running the .NET Run or .NET Watch command, right? Suppose you are running the application using .NET Core CLI, then it will give you some immediate feedback, right? What is exactly happening? You will get immediate some message if you are using this .NET Run messages command to true, right? But there's no such official documentation available. And if you visit this link, right? If you visit this link, then you will see, you will understand. See,
Okay,
there
Dolly.
is, guys, please mute yourself when you are talking with right? So there is no proper documentation available. The whole purpose of the settings, which intended is here to officially document, right? Anywhere as far as I can tell, to give some immediate feedback whenever we are executing the application using the .NET Run command means using .NET Core CLI. Without it set to true on the first one after creating a app, it might take a few seconds before some text feedback is shown. That means what? If you have not used this property and if you set this property to false, then you will not get immediate feedback. The text will be shown after few seconds. But if you use this feedback, then you will get the output immediately, right? So to give you a hints, right? Currently we have made this as true, right? Now let me open this folder in Explorer. Let me copy the path, right? Let me copy the path and open the command from the project is in D drive. Let me go to the project folder where application is running, and then I just type .NET run. So immediately you can see this building dot is coming, right? This is coming, and then you are getting the message. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this as false, right? So once I make this as false, the building, the command, what you are saying, building dot, this you will not get, right? Let me open the command prompt once more time, right? D drive ct .NET ROM. See, you are not getting that, and then you are getting the data, right? So this is what they are saying. You will get immediate feedback if you are using the value to true. Clear, guys? But officially, there is no such documentation available. These two property clear,
Yes.
right? So launch browser
So
means what?
in real time, we are changing any changes in here, sir, or
See,
so
this again and again I'm saying this profile is never going to be used in real time. It is only for the purpose of development server. In real time, you need to decide whether you need to access the application using HTTP protocol or HTTPS protocol, right? So those are under in real time, there is no such launch browser. That means once you host the application, automatically it will open the browser and launch the home page. These things are not available in real time. It is only for the development machine. So whatever I am explaining right now, only for the purpose of a development. Any settings, anything you want to do, that you can do using if you want in production, that you can do using the app settings, right? What we are going to discuss next. You will never use this file in production. So don't compare this thing with the production. These are not available with the production server. In production, you only need to decide what server you need to use. In production, you need to decide what kind of authentication you need to use. In production, you only need to decide the application endpoint, right? Whether you need to access using HTTP protocol or HTTPS protocol, what is the domain name, right? What is the host port number, what is everything you need to only decide. And these things, they are Visual Studio gives to us by default because we also need some kind of environment where we are going to run our application. So don't think that this local host 7175 is going to be used in your production server. This is not true, right?
So
So
which
this
command
launch,
is used to stop the execution?
sorry.
Which command is used to stop the execution from command prompt?
So stop the execution means you just need to close the command prompt. That's it,
That's it. Okay, sir.
right? Right. So here launch browser is there. Launch browser means what? Now once it hosts the application, do you want to open the browser with the default home page, which is set the base URL or the root URL? Yes, I want to use. Then for that purpose, you need to make this value true. For example, I'm going to use IIS Express. And once I use IIS Express, then you will see that once it hosts the application, right, then it will open the default page. So currently, can anybody tell me why I'm not getting the output? Why it is giving me this? Because currently the application is run using the .NET Core CLI command. So what you need to do? We need to close this one. Once we close this one, then again we need to come here and again we need to run. Right? Let me run using the this custom server only. Right? So once you run this custom server, right? Once you click on this, then you will see first it will launch the profile, right? You can see it is launching the, uh, it is hosting the application. Once it hosts the application, it is automatically opening the browser and pointing to the default or root URL. Right now, what I'm going to do, this settings is for custom server. So what I'm going to do, I'm making this value to false. Let me stop this one, right? Let me stop this one and run the application. So once you stop this and run the application, then what will happen? It will host the application, but it will not launch your default browser where it will pointing to the default URL, right? See, the application is host, right? But the default browser is not coming. So in that case, what you need to do, you just need to copy the URL, go to your browser and access the URL like this. So this is how the importance of this launch browser property. Clear, guys?
The top one IS setting, can you explain this first tab? The
Sorry.
line number starting from 2 to line number 7.
So I have not discussed yet. I'm currently discussing this one. Why you are going to that portion? Let me complete step by step.
Okay.
So don't put your mind here and there. Whatever I'm explaining, please concentrate on that point only. Let me complete the explanation of this file. Then still, if you have any question, then you can ask. Right? So this launch browser is completed. So basically it will decide whether the browser to be launched once the application is hosted or not. True means it will launch the browser, false means it will launch the browser. Application URL means it is basically using what URL, right? You can access the application, right? You can see there are two versions. One is HTTP and another one is HTTPS, two protocols, because whenever we are creating the application, at that time we have checked that checkbox, right? If you look at the application, right, when we create the application, at that time we have enabled, we have checked this configure for HTTPS checkbox. So once you configure, once you checked this configure for HTTPS checkbox, then you will see two URL. One is using HTTP protocol, another one is using HTTPS protocol, right? Clear? Clear, guys? This application URL,
Yes.
right? So then environment variable means what na, if you want to declare some variable which you want to access in your application, then you can declare them inside this environment variables, right? So currently we are setting that ASP.NET Core environment is development, right? My custom key, I'm putting one variable, my custom key equals to some value, right? So some value. So you can also declare some variable within this hardcore web application, right? And whenever you run your application using Control server, it will get the data from here. Similarly, if you want to declare some variable, then also you can declare here. And this ASP.NET Core environment, this is a inbuilt property, right? Which will decide what is the environment, whether the environment is development, whether the environment is staging, whether the environment is production, that you need to decide. And what is the importance of this? Now, based on the environment, if you want to execute some code, right? In your program class, you need to execute some code that whenever the environment is development, I need to show the exception details in the web page. But whenever the environment is production, I don't want to show the exception details. Rather than I need to provide a generic error message. Is that possible? Yes, that is possible. How it is possible? First of all, we need to figure out what is the environment. If the environment is production, then we need to do this thing. If the environment is a development, then we need to do this thing. And what is this custom key value? If you want to set if you want to declare some global variable, if you remember in our web config file, we are declaring some global variable which we can access throughout the application, right? So such kind of global variables you need to declare inside this environment variables connection. Clear?
Sir, one question here.
Yes.
As you told, you can add one custom key,
So
and
now,
if you add some,
if it is not available in the production, then how we can access the same, right?
no. My question is, if you are going to add some custom key, and you know that in production it is not required, then what is the meaning of to add a custom key?
That is what I'm saying now. This file is not going to be used in the production, right? So if you add this custom key, it is only available in the development server, because this file will never going to be used in the production. But in the production, suppose you want to define the connection string. That connection string is going to be used in the production or not?
Yes.
So in that case, if you define that connection string here, then that will not be available in the production, because this file will never going to be used. Then in that case, where you need to define the key? You need some key, you need some global variable, you need to decide, right? Suppose you want to provide the folder path. So in this particular folder path, my text file should be generated. There it should log the data. Then in that case, you need to define some kind of a global variable. In the
Yes.
production also, so then such kind of things, you need to use this AppSettings.json file, not this one. But in development, yes, it is possible, you can define here. But if you define here and if you define there, then which will take the priority? That is what we are also going to discuss.
Okay.
Clear?
Yes.
Right. This section is, guys, completed.
Yes, sir.
And you can also think the same thing is here also. The command name the same as this. Launch browser is same as this. Environment variable is also something like this. I will show you how you can access this ASP.NET environment, right? How you can access this custom key. I will show you practically with examples, 50%, right? And now, whenever you are using IIS as we discussed, right? With the custom server, there is no security. First of all, I told you this thing earlier. Why we can't use custom server? Because it is not providing any additional layer of security. But as I mentioned, why we need to use custom server along with other server? Because other server will give you the security. The other server will protect you, protect your data, protect your application, protect everything. How it is protect? Because it is going to provide you some kind of security. And you can say this Windows authentication, anonymous authentication, these are available for IIS, but these are not available for your custom server. Why? Because custom server is not going to provide any kind of a security. Right? So you can say whether you want to enable Windows authentication or not, whether you want to enable anonymous authentication or not, that you can specify here. If you enable Windows authentication, then you can only access by using your Windows credential. If you enable anonymous authentication, then anyone can access your application. Again, what is this authentication, anonymous, Windows, token based, right? JWT, everything that is a separate story altogether. What is basic authentication? What is token based authentication? How we can implement ASP.NET identity server, right? How we can configure identity with JWT, how we can create the refresh token, what should be the validity of a token, how the token is expired, how we can check whether the token is expired or not, how we can call the refresh token, right, when the token is expired, right, how to set the token expire time, what are the properties, right, how token, right, whenever we are calling one method, right, and then how the server identify the token, whether it is a valid token or not. Everything we are going to discuss in detail. For now, just remember this, if you are using IIS Express means you are having the security concept. You can protect your application. And this IIS Express means you can see here, it is directly showing you two URL. One is HTTPS, another one is HTTP. And here it is showing HTTP URL. And this SS port is nothing but it is equivalent of this one, right? So here you can access the HTTPS protocol using this port number. And if you do not want, then what you need to do, you just need to make this value as 0. Clear, guys?
Yes. Here in application URL, can we use the HTTPS as well?
Sorry?
In the line number 6.
If you use the HTTPS, then what is exactly this URL? Do you access the same application with two different port number?
No, only one port number required.
Only one. Then what you will do here? If you put this 0, then it will get confused only, na? Whether this is the proper or this is the proper. So this is the format he is provided. Why we are going to do changes to this one? If you want HTTPS, then you need to use this one. If you don't want, then make it as 0. Now you might be questioning, I don't want to use HTTP protocol. I don't want to use HTTP protocol. See, I'm coming to your point. If I don't want to use HTTP protocol, I only want to use HTTPS protocol. How is that possible? Yes, that is possible. For that purpose, we are going to use one middleware component, redirect to HTTPS protocol, right? Whenever the request is coming for HTTP protocol, it will automatically redirect that request to HTTPS. Clear?
Okay.
Yeah. If we are executing this project, which URL works like
Sorry?
HTTP executed?
No, I'm not getting your question.
I mean, if we are executing this project, which local host is executed in here?
Local host
Like
means
IIS
your
Express?
local host means local host. It doesn't matter. It is IIS Express or it is a custom web server, right? Based on the project, right? Based on the command name and based on your ASP.NET Core hosting model element, the respective server will come into the picture. Local host means it is your machine or it is your machine IP address. Don't think that local host means it is specific to your IIS Express or it is specific to your custom server. No, it is not like that. This local host means your machine IP address only.
I mean, two web servers is there, right? So HTTP
Right,
is
two
like
web
a
server is
partition.
there, but the port number is going to be different, na? The same IP address. See, this local host is representing the IP address of your machine. What is the every machine, every server having a unique IP address, and that IP address is nothing but here you need to mention.
No,
If
which
you are
one is
working with
executed when we run the project? Which one is executed?
So again, I'm saying which you just tell me which one means exactly which one what exactly your question. Which one means what?
I mean, I'm saying here two web servers is there. One is HTTP, like application
So you
URL,
can
and
access
here
it. So
application.
you can access both now. If you are running the application, you can access the application using both the URL. There is no such restriction. You can access using HTTPS. You can also access the application using HTTP. For example, let me run this application, right? So currently it is using 7158. I'm using the custom web server. So it is 7158. By default, it is using HTTPS. Now you can also access the same application using this port. That is also possible. Right? You can also access using both using both URL. You don't
Okay.
want one URL, just remove that from here.
Okay, sir.
Clear?
Yeah.
Right. So this is how this is all about your launch settings start. What I can say, JSON file, right? So you can check this one. We have already discussed the examples, right? So in the project file, you can set in process hosting or out of process hosting, right? The
Sir,
settings
one
is for
question.
yes, yes.
This SSL port needs for both HTTP and HTTPS,
No.
or
The SSL port is only for HTTPS, not for HTTP. So, for example, if you make this as 0, right, then you can only access using the HTTP protocol. You can't access the application using HTTPS. This SSL port is for what? Only for HTTPS.
okay.
Right? For example, let me make an IIS Express. Now I'm putting this 0. So as I'm putting this 0, I cannot access this IIS using what HTTPS. It can only be available using HTTP. See, localhost 39277. Localhost 39277. This is the HTTP protocol. Now what I'm going to do, I'm making this as the 44394, whatever the default port now the Visual Studio provided, right? Now run the application, you can see 44394. It is accessing using SSL port. By default, it is giving priority to HTTPS. But even though you can also access the application using this HTTP protocol, right? So if you go and paste it here, then you can also access. Later, I will show you how you can navigate, how you can transfer, how you can redirect this HTTP protocol, right? This to this one. For that purpose, we need to use a separate middleware component, and we have not yet discussed what are middleware components. I'm not going to discuss that. Clear?
Sir, one question. In the when we are going to inspect, how we can debug in the inspect?
So, what is the required for debugging the inspect element?
So we can we can do the debug
You
here
can
too,
do
right?
here. So, debug means that is there anything in the client side which you want to debug? So if you are using some JavaScript, some jQuery file, then you can debug such files, right? You can debug what is happening. But in this case, we are not writing any client-side code. Then what we will debug? In this case, everything is on the server side only. I will show you how you can debug the, right? Once we start discussing the MVC application, web API application, at that time I am going to show you how you can debug the controller action method, right? All these things I am going to discuss. But in this case, when by using this browser developer tool, you can only debug the client side code. Any JavaScript method you have written, any jQuery function you have written, those you can only debug using the browser developer tool. But you cannot debug what code you have written in your C# language that you can debug here. Clear,
Okay,
guys?
fine.
Right? So
Sir,
this
the
is all.
Kestrel server, sorry, the Kestrel
Yes,
server
yes,
doesn't have much security, right? So we use it
exactly.
only for development environment.
No.
Correct?
Kestrel server, no. Kestrel server is the internal web server, right? For example, as you know, Microsoft is basically populated for Windows-based product. Whatever IIS server, IIS only is in the Windows environment. You can't use IIS in a Linux, right? But suppose in Linux you want to use Apache Tomcat, right? Apache server to host your .NET Core application, right? Then in that case, Apache will become your external web server, and the application code whatever you written, right? Those are going to be executed by the Kestrel web server, right? Apache will redirect the request to the Kestrel. Kestrel is the internal web server which is provided by Microsoft, and that Kestrel web server is going to execute your application code.
Okay, sir.
Sir,
Right?
what will be the role of internal and external web servers? Sir?
I'm talking. Right? So in this case, you can see this is the external web server and this is the internal web server, right? So as you know, right, you guys attend yesterday session.
Yes, sir.
So yesterday only I have discussed this thing. Did you watch the video? What is the importance of why we can't use Kestrel as the internet facing server? Why we need to use a proxy server? Right? We have already discussed this thing. Right? If you have still doubt related to yesterday's session, please join the doubt clearing session, which is going to be on weekend. Because we have already discussed this thing. Yes or no, guys? We have discussed this
Sure,
thing or
sir.
not? Why we can't use Kestrel as the internet facing server? Because there is no security. Why Kestrel server is there? Because this is the server which makes the .NET Core platform as a cross platform. This Kestrel, because of this Kestrel server, we are able to now host our application on Linux, Mac, and other operating system. Right? This is going to be your internal web server. Even though if you use this as the external web server, then nobody is going to use, because you can't provide any kind of a security. Right? We have already discussed this thing. Any doubt related to yesterday's session, please join our, what I can say, doubt clearing session, which is in tomorrow or day after tomorrow, right? But before that, you need to ping me what is your query, right? Accordingly, I will allocate some time. It's not be that you will come and you will wait for 1 hour or 2 hours, right? So I will provide one particular time slot. In that time slot, you have to join and I will clarify your doubts, right? Any doubt related to today's session, if you have, then you can ask me. Yesterday's
Sir,
session done,
you
we
will,
will discuss on in the what I can say in the doubt clearing sessions.
sir, you will be providing individual time, or everyone should come at one
Individual
time or
time,
same?
individual time. See, suppose suppose everyone will come at the same time. So I don't want anyone to wait for 1 hour or 2 hours to come his turn, right? I'll provide some time slot to each and everyone.
Okay.
Even though,
And that time
right,
you have to come. Okay.
right, I will put that time slot in the group and accordingly they have to join. If you guys want, then you can also join. But whenever your time comes, I will take your question only.
Okay. Till then we have to listen.
Yes, yes. Clear, guys? This thing?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It's clear.
Right. So the next what I'm going to discuss is AppSettings.json. As we discussed, right, this
One
application, yes,
without launch setting, can we run the application local?
locally how you can run, what is the IP address, what is the environment, these things, how you will decide. You need a server or not? Without a server,
Yes,
can you
yes,
run the
sir.
application? First, you just tell.
Um,
No, no,
no.
it's not a laughing word. So we need to understand the things, right? So don't
Yes.
laugh with any question, right? It's not a good manner. So we need to respect each and everyone. Everyone not here cool, and if everybody know everything, then why they come here? We need to understand the things from the basic only, right? So without web server, can we run our application?
Without website, we cannot.
Sorry?
We cannot.
We cannot. Then if we remove this launch settings, then how the Visual Studio will decide at what port number I need to run the application, at what I need to use Visual Studio IIS Express, or whether I need to use that Kestrel web server, whether I need to use both of them, right? How the Visual Studio will decide what is the available port number, right? So what is the port number for
Yes.
HTTP protocol? What is the port number for HTTPS protocol? For right, for IAS, whether we need to use Windows authentication enable or disable, anonymous authentication enable or disable, right? How the Visual Studio will decide all these things? Clear?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Right. So this is the things. Next, what we are going to discuss is AppSettings.json file. Right. So what are the different configuration sources in ASP.NET Core application? So whenever I'm saying different configuration sources, means what are the different places where you can put the configuration information? Configuration information means some information which you want to use throughout your application. It doesn't matter whether I'm running the application in staging environment or production environment or a development environment, any environment that is fine. But I want to use those information in my application, right? And if you worked with the previous version of ASP.NET, right? Previous means if you are working with ASP.NET MVC, ASP.NET Web API application, then you might know the importance of a web config file. So this web config file, actually, it is with the global configuration file where you need to define such configuration. Any database connection string, put it in the web config file. Any global scope, application scope global variable, put it into that web config file. And then using the configuration manager, right, we can access that config file key and we can access the config key, and whatever the value associated with that key, that value we can get in our application. But this web config file is not available in our ASP.NET Core application. Then how we are going to read the configuration information in .NET Core application? In .NET Core application, we have many options. What are the options? AppSettings.json file you can use. AppSettings.environment.json file you can use, where environment is nothing but it is the hosting environment, and the value can be production, value can be staging, and value can be development. User secret is there. What is user secret? In our coming session, we will discuss. Environment variable is also there. What is environment variable? How you can set the value? That is also we are going to discuss, right? So all these
So
things are
database
available.
credential also available here, right, sir?
Yeah, you can put inside this AppSettings.json file, right? So let us discuss what exactly this AppSettings.json file and what exactly this AppSettings.environment.json file. And user secret, we will discuss this part later. Environment variable also I'm going to discuss in this session, right? So whenever we create a ASP.NET Core web application with empty result pages, MVC web API, any project template you take into consideration, then automatically Visual Studio create this AppSettings.json file. And within this AppSettings.json file, you will find AppSettings.development.json file. Means it is saying that this is nothing but your development environment where you are developing the application. So you can put the settings in the AppSettings.json file, or you can put the settings inside the AppSettings.development.json file. Along with the development, you can also create a JSON file with the staging environment, with the production environment, right? That is also possible. But this AppSetting, it is unique. It is only one, right? So this you will get it by default. And if you open the AppSettings.json file, this file default information is there, right? One logging section is there, and allowed host. Logging means once we discuss the logging middle layer component, right? Then we will discuss what is exactly this logging component is all about. Allow host to start means one, from anywhere you can access the application, right? If anybody working with any kind of web API application, right? If they want to access the application from different right server, right, from anywhere, then they have to use this allow host to start. Start means from anywhere you can access the application, right? So this is the default code which you will get. Now, what is my requirement? My requirement is I need to add a custom key, right? Once you discuss the database kind of thing in your .NET Entity Framework, right? At that time, I will discuss you how you can add the connection string into the AppSettings.json file. But now let me add a custom key, and let me try to access that custom key from our application, right? So if you want to add a custom key, then what you need to do? Just put that custom key as a key value pair inside the AppSettings.json file, right? Now you can see I'm putting this custom key. So what is the name? My custom key value coming from AppSettings. So this is just the key, and it is its corresponding value. Now what is my requirement? I want to access this value throughout my application. Then how I can access this? Right. So for access, what you need to do, right? For accessing the configuration information, right? This is nothing but your configuration information. If you go to the program class, right? If you go to the web application builder, right? This web application builder means web application builder instance, right? If I go to this, right, web application, right, then you will see there is a configuration property. And using this configuration property, you can access the configuration information, right? Using this configuration property, you can access the configuration information, right? If you go to the definition of this one, right, you can see there is a indexer is available, right? Using that indexer, even though other option is available, let me web application builder. So this is nothing but your web application builder, right? So if you go to the web application builder, then you will see there is some properties available, right? So this is the configuration property, right? Using this configuration property, you can access. And if you go to the definition of this one, then you will see the indexer is there. So using the indexer, you can access the data. How we are going to access the data, and apart from indexer, is there any other method available? Those kind of things we need to understand. First of all, what we need to do, we need to create an instance of a configuration manager class. How we are going to create the configuration manager class, as we already discussed, there is a property called configuration which is available inside this configuration class, right? So you can see this is the property, and what this property is returning, this property is returning an instance of a configuration manager. So we need to create an instance of a configuration manager class, and you can see this configuration manager class having one indexer. What kind of indexer is this? This is a string indexer. Means what? It will take the string key and it will return me the corresponding string value, right? And apart from that, if you go down, then you will see another get string values method is method should be there. Load. Okay. Okay, I will come to that part. It is not showing here. And I will come to that part. So basically what you need to do, you need to create an instance of a configuration manager. How you will create an instance of a configuration manager? By calling the configuration property of the web application builder instance. Once you've got the configuration manager instance, then you can access the config key values in two ways. What are the ways? By using the get value method, you need to specify the string key, right? Or by using the indexer, you can also access the string key. Let us understand this practically, right? So let me copy paste these things, right? So here you can see, right? So using the configuration manager, so you can see, first of all, I'm creating an instance of a configuration manager. So if you want, and for that purpose, I'm using this configuration service. And this configuration service is automatically provided to us by this create builder method. So whenever we create this instance, this builder class is created, right? Web application builder, and this web application builder class having one property called configuration. And this configuration property return me an instance of the configuration manager, right? If you go to the definition of this property, then you will see it is returning me an instance of a configuration manager. It is same as the configuration manager what we use in our ASP.NET MVC application, right? Once you got the configuration manager instance, then you have two options to access the configuration value, right? So what are the options? By using this configuration manager instance, you can make use of this get key get value method. You need to specify what is the key name. So in our example, the key name is my custom key, right? Launch settings. So let me, before using that, let me remove this one. I will come to this part later, how you can access value from here also, right? So you can say my custom key. So in AppSetting.json file, whatever the name you provided, copy the name, come here, paste it here. So to the get value method, I'm proceeding. It's a generic method, right? If you go to the definition, then you will see that it's a generic method which is taking the type of a T, and this is configuration binder class, right? So this method is taking the type of right data type what this key is going to return. In my case, this key is going to return me a string value, so I'm putting that string here, and whatever the type you specify, that should be the return type of your variable, right? And in this case, this is the string. And the best way, this is one option, and the best way, instead of using this configuration binder, So what I can do is you can make use of this configuration indexer, right? So if you do not know what is indexer, then I will provide the link. From there you can learn what is indexer, how to create indexer, what is string indexer, what is integer indexer, how to, right, how you can create your own indexer in your application, that you will learn. So basically using the string indexer key, I'm accessing the corresponding value from the configuration, right? So whatever the value present for this particular key, that value will come and store here. And then what I'm doing here, I'm just printing that value into the output string. And whenever we run the application, this is nothing but your root URL. So for the root URL, right, whatever the value that is stored in the my custom key in the AppSettings.json file, that value will be come and that value will be displayed in the browser. Let me run the application and show you, right? My custom key value coming from AppSettings.json file. So how to access the config value from the AppSettings.json file? First of all, you need to create an instance of a configuration manager, because you are going to access the config value. How to create a configuration instance manager instance? Now you need to call this a configuration property of the web application builder instance. So this is nothing but your web application builder instance, and on that instance you need to call this. Once you got the instance, then you can make use of this get value method, which is a generic method. To this method, you need to specify the key. You have to specify the type of a value this key is returning, or else you can make use of the indexer. In both the cases, it is going to return me the same data. Clear, guys, or any doubt anybody have? Right? Any question from anyone? How to access the configuration values from AppSettings.json file?
Clear, sir.
Clear?
Yeah, I'm having one doubt. Like
Yes.
we are saying that my custom key, we are getting that value from the configuration. Now,
Right.
according to the environment, it will take. Let us assume that in the
See, that is
launch
what I'm
settings.
going to. I'm going to
Okay.
explain those things. I can put this config file here also, in the environment variable also. Then in that case, which one is going to take the more priority? That is what I'm going to explain next. But for now, what
Okay.
my question is how to access the config value from the configuration, right? It doesn't matter whether it is app settings, launch settings, right? App settings start development, no matter. But this is the process how you can access the data.
Okay.
Right? Any question from anyone related to this piece of code, then they can ask. So basically, you can use get value generic method, or you can use this string index. Clear, guys?
So we have one project, every project only one app setting JSON, or
Exactly. So it is similar to your web config file. Do you have a multiple web config file which is present in your application? No. So in this case, this is going to be one app settings.json file. So in .NET Core, you have one app setting, but you can create any number of app settings environment.json file. That you can create one development, one production, one staging. That is possible, but this is one, right? But now next, what I'm going to discuss, how I can put the same config key in multiple file and how it is going to work, right? So next, what I'm going to discuss, right? You can see there is a development also app settings development.json. So what I'm going to do, I'm again putting that same key here. So if I'm putting the same key here, then who is going to take the priority? And here you can see I'm saying application app settings development.json. Let me first run the application. My custom key value coming from app settings.json. Is there any mistake I have done?
Have you set the environment?
Sorry?
Launch
Yeah, that
settings.
is. No, I just need to check. My custom key value coming from AppSettings start JSON.
Should we change it to first core web application in the
Sorry?
Environment in launch settings.
Yeah. So we need to set the environment, right? So go to the properties, right? Go to the debug, open this file and set the, where is the environment? So this environment variable, it is showing as production, right? So we need to set this as development. IIS Express, and here also it is setting development, right?
It is in debug mode, so you cancel it and check it.
IIS environment is development, right? Development we have set, yes. Right now it is coming from the AppSettings.development.json file. Why? Because we have set the environment as a development, and whenever we set the environment as a development, and if we have something that is available in the AppSettings.json file as well as AppSettings.development.json file, then in that case, first it will read the data from the AppSettings.json file. Then again it will read the data from the AppSettings.development.json file. If same key is available here and same key is available here also, then this key value will override the existing key value, right? So in this case, you can see this AppSettings, right? It is having my custom key value coming from AppSettings.json, and here I'm saying my custom key value coming from AppSettings.development.json. So in this case, first it will read the data from AppSettings.json. First priority given to AppSetting. Then it will read this one. Second, it is going to read from AppSettings.development.json. So in this case, it is reading that my custom key value is this one. And second time it is reading this custom key value, right? And this time it will override the existing value, right? Whatever value is there, that will be overridden here. And once you run the application, that value you will see here. Clear? Guys?
Yes.
Right. So what is the default execution order, right? So we have already discussed. First it will give priority to that. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to define the same in the environment variable, right? The same key I'm going to define in the environment variable. Environment variable means in the LaunchSettings.json file, you can see here I'm going to define the same key, right? And where is the other one? So I'm putting this on the environment variable, right? So now if you
Having
run
one
the,
doubt.
yes,
Yeah, there is actually one is app setting and other one is app setting.development. So
right.
for app setting to access the ASP.NET_environment, what will be there? It will be development or something else.
See, this development is nothing but the environment, and this environment can be your development, can be production, can be staging, right? And whatever the set environment you are using, just like as you know, when currently we go to this project properties, right? And then go to the debug folder, open this UI, and here we set the environment as development, right? If you go down, right, to here we can see the environment as a development, right? If the environment is development, then it is going to check that app settings dot development to JSON file. If the environment is a production, then this file will not come into the picture. If you have app settings dot production dot JSON file, then that file it is going to check any settings you specified only for the production environment. Yes, I specified. Then it will check that app settings dot production dot JSON file. If you are having some one file app settings dot staging dot JSON, then it will check first what is the environment. Environment is staging. Yes.
And what
Then it
about if
will
I want to access app setting only? I don't want app setting, development,
then,
staging, or it
then
now.
if you don't want, then don't put anything now. Just remove this. It will
Okay.
take the data from here only.
No. If I want to access app settings, so what will be the environment?
App setting, it doesn't matter. Irrespective of an environment, it is always going to access the app setting path. And this app settings development JSON file, it is basically based on the environment. If development environment, then these settings will come into the picture. Suppose if I change the environment to production earlier, right? We have changed the environment to production, then these settings will not come into the picture. This file is never going to be accessed, but this file can access.
Because production file is not there, so it was not taking it. So it was taking app setting. But if all the three files are there, development, staging, production, and I want to access app setting. So for that, do I need to remove the environment?
So for that purpose, you should not put, right? You should not put this file in any of the specific any of the specific app settings to the environment JSON file. If you put, then they will take the priority over this app setting. See, this is nothing but you can say this is your virtual method, right? This is your virtual method, and these are nothing but your override method, right? If you override, then that override will only come into the picture. Understand?
Okay. Okay.
Hi, sir. One question. So, for example, I am hosting that application on staging environment. This how that this application know I am hosting on staging or
See, if you are hosting on the staging environment, right, that is what I'm saying now. In that case, these files will not come into the picture, only app setting. But if you want to test, right, how the staging environment is going to be work, then for that particular purpose, you need to use this thing, right? Because the staging environment is altogether that is for staging environment, right? There you do not use, right? But from your local machine, right, from your local machine, you want to communicate with the staging database, then how you can do this? So for that purpose, you need to use this app settings.staging.json file. You need to set the environment as staging, then you can access the staging data.
I think from the top drop down you can select, right? First core web application. You can there you can select whether you want to.
In staging environment, you do not have this option that you can select all these things. That is in staging means it's a completely server only. There is no option to run the application using Visual Studio and something like this. Right?
Okay.
So basically, if you are having some staging environment, you can create app settings.development.json, app settings.staging. So this particular file, this file is only for the development purpose. This app setting is for the production. And if you want to do something related to specific environment, you can override that key here. Right? Because see, sometimes what happens, we need to communicate from the staging database to check whether everything is fine or not. Then in that purpose, what we need to do? We need to communicate with the staging database. How we can communicate with the staging database? We can change the connection string in the staging app settings.staging.json file. And we need to make the environment as staging.
So usually when we execute, it's not going to be run, right, sir? But when you execute and it's showing like a development.json. Why is showing there?
Oh, see, this environment.json file, these are basically provided to you to check how this things is going to be executed in the production environment, right? So, for example, okay, so in the next, what I'm going to discuss is, so if you know this, right? So, if you know this, right? So, if the environment is production, then I only want to execute some code. Sorry, if the environment is development, then I only need to write some code, right? For example, I'm just throwing one exception, throw new exception. So this is if the environment, but if the environment is not production, I don't want to do anything. So basically, if you want to do some specific settings, right? Some specific code specific to the environment, then in that case, you need to do this. Right? This environment is development. It is going to return what is the exact environment, and you can set the environment whether it is hosting environment is a production or hosting environment is a development, right? Those kind of things you can do. But guys, again, I'm saying until and unless I have not discussed how you can make the staging environment, how you can make the environment as a production, right? You will not get a more, you will not get a better clarity, because we are just starting. Starting means if you from the starting only, if you thinking about the end things, right, then it will not work. So currently, I'm just showing you if you are having the same key in multiple configuration files, then how the priority is going to be given, from which file it is going to take, right? Until and unless we are not uh, deploying our application into the server, right? Until and unless we are not making this environment settings and all these things, right? You will not understand this, right? So now if you are having questions on how we can make the environment setting, so for that purpose, right, what you need to do, you just need to go to this launch settings.json file. This is one key, right? Using that key only, you can set the development now, right? So this key means it is going to set the environment as a development, or environment as a production, or environment as staging, right? And based on this ASP.NET Core environment variable value, it will decide whether the environment is production or development or staging. And based on this, the corresponding JSON file is going to be executed. Clear, guys? See, until and unless we are not hosting the application, you will get some doubt, right? So this is a key, right? This is a property ASP.NET Core underscore environment. It is a global variable which is provided by Microsoft. I'm not using this, right? If you go to the if you come to here also, then you will see that what is the environment variable? This is development, right? ASP.NET Core underscore environment is development. Using that variable, I have set the environment as production. You need to set this one as production, right? If you want, you can set this as staging, right? So once you make this as staging, right, this development.json file will not come into the picture. If you make this as a development, right, then this file will come into the picture. And if once it read the data from this JSON file, it will go to that development.json file, and it will try to check whether the same key is available or not. If it is available, then it will take the value from there. If it is not available, then it will not take the value. Whatever value you have defined in the AppSettings.json file, that will come into the picture. Clear, guys?
So yeah, so one thing, ASP.NET Core environment, what you define. So which keyword is present in that? It will try to
This is the
search app
keyword.
setting.
This is the built-in key which you can use to set the development. This key is provided by Microsoft, like the way allowed host. This is not a custom key. This is a built-in key. So if you move, then it is saying ASP.NET Core host filtering middleware configuration. Allowed host is a semicolon dominated list of host names without port number, right? So for example, if you want your application to be accessed from different hosts, right, that you can specify using comma, comma, comma. Otherwise, if you put star, then it will make your application to be accessible from any host, right? And similarly, you can see ASP.NET underscore environment, right? So this ASP.NET Core environment, it is basically used to set the environment of your application, whether it is development, whether it is what I can say, production, whatever, that you can set here. And this is my custom key, means it is the custom key. Whatever name you want, you can give, and you can access the data.
So I think
Right?
that is why we have parentheses given in the environment specific variables like app settings dot development dot JSON. So what keyword we give here, it is going to search that keyword and take variables from that file.
Exactly. This app settings dot development dot JSON. This development is nothing but your environment name. So if you put here development, you have to put development here also, right? If it is production, then it is going to be app settings dot production dot JSON. You can put three different files here. App settings dot development dot JSON, app settings dot production dot JSON, app setting dot staging dot JSON. Then based on the environment, what you specify. So suppose you are running the application in one server. In that particular server, that might be your production, development, QA, staging, whatever. it is not possible that that server that is going to be act for multiple environments, right? So for that particular purpose, you need to use this one, right?
Sir, custom key is compulsory here to define or is optional?
So custom key means what? It is your user defined key name. I can put any name, na? You can 1, 2, 3, whatever name you want, you can give. That's no issue.
No, that is fine, but it is compulsory to define that keyword, the complete sentence. My custom
See,
key is compulsory.
see, this is what kind of file? Is it a XML file or JSON file?
It's a JSON file, na?
So JSON file, how you are storing the data?
Separated by comma. Key value.
Key value pair only, na? So you have to define the key and you need to specify the value only. I don't understand
that
what is
means
your question.
no, custom key here is compulsory. If you can remove this entire line, the line number 10, will it work or it will not work?
So if you remove this line number key, why it should not work? It should work, but can you access that value? It will work. Definitely, it is going to work.
Okay.
In that case, it will take the data from the AppSettings.json file from here, right? So if you so we have removed from here, right? We have removed from AppSettings.json file. Then in that case, it will go to this file and it will take the value from here only.
Okay. So if you find there, then it will take from this file.
Yes.
Okay.
It is like this, na? It is not necessary that it is going to check only this file. Once it check this file, then it will check this file.
Okay.
Right? So
Fine.
we have right. So we have done the custom key in the offsetting.json file. In the offsetting.development.json file. Also, I'm putting the same custom key inside my uh,
Launch.
environment variables, right? Inside the environment variables. So in this case, if you run the application, then it will take the data from the environment variables, right? You can see it is taking the data from the launch settings.json file. So what is the order? The order is first it will check app settings.json file. Then it will check app settings.environment.json file. Here environment is development.json. User secrets. So once we proceed in our courses, right? Then we will discuss what is user secrets. And then if environment variables is there, then it will check the environment variable. But in real time, we are not going to use these things. In real time, we only focus on the app settings.json file because this launch settings is never going to be used in production server. And we do not want to create a different versions for different environment. So what we generally used in the production means we are going to use app settings.json file. Clear, guys? Yes or no?
Yes.
Right. So suppose you want to create some different file, right? So you can create. So
JSON file. Okay.
right. So you can see this is production file. So one database connection string is there like this, right? We are not going to use that one, but you can create your custom key here, right? Production, right? So what we need to do? Remove this one, otherwise data will come from here, right? From where the data is coming? Production. But if we are having both the development and the production JSON file, but why it is taking the, because in this case, this development.json file will not come into the picture. Why? Because the environment is production. So in the environment is production means it will going to check this file. Right? Clear, guys?
Sir, I have one question. So if I will define environment as a prod, only PROD I will define. So here
No, you
JSON
can't define this prod PROD. So it is not available, right? So you can say it is development, right? So if you say app dot environment dot age, what are the options available? Development, production, staging. So you have to use development or production or staging. You can't use that PROD or anything else as per your requirement. This is some convention that you need to follow.
Got it.
Clear, guys? Any question from anyone?
Yes, sir, but we haven't stated that variable in that statings like prod. So how it is taking values from app stating.production JSON?
Sorry?
We have to say
We have said
that
we have provided that key in the app settings to the production. This key is there in the app settings to the production.json file. That's why it is taking the data from here only.
but that environment also we need to state na development production. We
have set the environment at environment as a production. If you go to here, if you open this one, so what is the environment?
Okay, thank you.
We have set the environment as a production. If you set the environment as a development, right, then it will take the data from the development machine only, right? So for example,
app setting we need to state, right? App setting.json.
See, currently from where it is taking the data from the development, because we have set the environment as a development file. But if you remove this thing, right? Suppose I remove this thing, and from our production also I remove this thing, then it will take the data from the app settings.json file. Now let me run the application and see whether it is taking the data from the app settings. So is not there the app settings.json file? Yes, the key is there. Right, my custom key is there. Let me run the application.
The key name is different.
Key name is different.
Yes, sir.
Oh, so sorry, I have put this tool, right? So now if you run the application, then definitely it is going to take the data from the app settings.json file. Clear?
Yeah, thank you.
Any question from anyone, guys? No questions.
Sir, can you go to that program.cs file?
Yes, program.cs class file. Let me stop the
Yeah.
recording first.